Has to coincide with recreation.
Right here, I have it up here. You see the difference? We talked about this last time. Now, the existing police station skating area, we counted that, Larry, and we counted it during about a month or two, about probably 2 months ago. So that is your most unpredictable number because that's impacted by your softball stadium stuff. We counted the township building, both the here and the recreation, and we counted the library. And then we also compared those to ITE, the Institute of Traffic Engineers. And the numbers matched up pretty good. The library's a little tougher because you only have a parking lot and you have a lot of parking in the vicinity. But you can see the difference when the peaks are for each type of use, right? Each one has a higher PM peak. The township delta is the least of the delta. In other words, the township could be almost as busy in the morning AM peak, which typically in our township tends to be 7:30 to 8:30, 7 to 8, and the PM peak tends to be 5 to 6, 5:30 to 6:30.
But is that 205 for the library of PM peak? That's measured for all of PM or for that peak period of
Hour.
What was
The
the peak hour?
PM hour.
What's the peak hour?
Pardon me?
5, 6.
Well, in our township, Steve, it tends to be 5:30, 6:30, 5:30 to 6:30.
So at the library, 205, what is?
That's
Your
the number of
estimation.
trips in and out generated during a PM peak hour.
Dave, just
Why
one,
would it be so much?
I'm sorry. When you're doing the police stadium and you're giving us the peak counts, those were taken when?
These were taken about 2 to 3 months ago.
Okay.
Township would count it down.
Now, those are physical, we counted the cars.
Physical counts.
So now you're talking about the library, not the library.
No,
when-
hey, wait a minute, they didn't count the cars, the people.
Thank you,
Am I right?
thank you.
Counted the cars.
Let me
Put the-
finish, let me
please
finish.
put the
Let me make my
strips down.
point. Let me make my point, then you can speak. Isn't the peak usage for the stadium later, in over the winter, rather than in June?
Absolutely,
or when
Mario,
you
that's
took
exactly.
your counts.
That's exactly what we talked about at the first presentation.
The police
The-
numbers aren't going to change, but the stadium numbers are.
The most, and Tim knows, he lives it every day, the most unpredictable, well, predictably unpredictable, is the recreational component of that site. If you've got a football field that's not being used for a long period of time, you've got ball fields that aren't used for months at a time, but you've also got a hockey game and a potential softball on the same night, right? Tim struggles with that up at the Haverford Reserve every day. You go, I assume you go up there tonight, it's probably pretty quiet. I was up there a month ago and it's pretty busy. So without a doubt, Mario, I tried to emphasize it at the first presentation, that is the most unpredictable component. And it has to be managed. It absolutely has to be managed.
Correct, but if you're showing the numbers for, if you're saying exiting the police and the stadium, you're doing the police, right, you're doing the police isn't going to change. The amount of exiting at the police station is going to
Fairly
stay.
consistent.
Is going to be
Correct.
steady. But the stadium is going to change because in the winter, those numbers are going to go up.
Yep. And a month ago, those numbers were up because you had softball. And on a Saturday, those numbers are up in the fall.
Okay.
Yep,
So you're
absolutely.
saying it's a wash is what you're saying? Or are you saying that there'll be more when the stadium is?
Well, in September, the stadium really picks up.
What I'm saying is it is.
You looked at me puzzled, so just go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not,
What
it's
do you
not a
think?
wash of anything.
Okay. All right, you're
It's
saying that the numbers are going to go up once September rolls around.
events, and events. The number goes up on events.
There we go.
Whether that event is
Can I-
in May or again, whether that event is a Saturday football game. The numbers go up for events.
Okay. Commissioner DeMille? you
Dave,
had a question?
the 205, I'm still a little confused because I know I'm not, you're the traffic expert, but the 205 seems to me that should be higher between 3 and 5. Why is it so late that it's, do you think?
Well, I'm telling you.
Can you offer an opinion?
I'm telling you the peak in our township, the whole road network is.
It's not just that site
Well,
right now where it is currently?
our town peaks, our peak PM peaks 5:30, 6:30. The library's PM peak, we counted it. I'd have to check the records to tell you if it's offset by that a little bit, Steve. I mean, it could be. It could be offset some. And I think I see where you guys are trying to go a little bit, is the library PM peak overlap the township PM peak?
Correct.
As-
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's,
But we didn't want you to break the microphone.
That's exactly right. But you don't have to break the mic to
when I was
make
talking.
Yeah. He really want to make a point.
A little bit of caution on
Screen,
that.
too?
A little bit of caution on that. You can outsmart yourself by doing that sometimes. You just got to be a little bit careful about that because peaks can move around a little bit. But I understand what you're saying, and I could see if I can get you something a little more definitive, because we counted it on if the PM peaks offset or over.
yeah, I'd like to see if they.
Right, I think that's what I hear you saying.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
But again, a word of caution, because traffic engineers try to do that all the time. You can outsmart yourself.
Yeah, but when you write PM peak there, you could replace it with 5:30 to 6:30.
Or some hour in the PM, yes. Yeah, 5:30, 6:30, 6 to 7.
All right. Just want to remind everyone, we're at our 90-minute,
Okay.
okay? Just reminding everyone, we can go over, there's no law against it, but
Let me,
just want to remind everyone.
Mario, was the time, it was the delay time for southbound Darby, right?
Right.
Measured it.
And it's to try to identify when the peaks, the actual peaks are.
So, and also, I mean, that's,
But again, be careful, because we can outsmart ourselves on that. I
Yeah.
just want a word of caution
the
on
question
that.
I have too is that going to be designated a turn lane now that there's going to be more traffic in that intersection?
Don't know the answer to that yet. I mean, if PennDOT regulates it, we could, I believe we've gone to PennDOT with the police already on that. Now, I think we're petitioning them now to modify that already.
Yeah, because I know I've had several constituents have accidents in that intersection, and they always side with, that is not a turn lane.
Yep. So the real answer is, we'll have a better feel for it shortly, because we've petitioned PennDOT now, I believe, to modify that, and we haven't heard back from them.
Okay,
They're reviewing, it's under review.
okay. Any other questions? All right, there
Uh,
being,
Can I just have one more?
no, go ahead.
I just-
Hold on. You have,
I just have
No,
one
she's
more
next.
about,
she's next, and then you want some? Okay.
just about Amy's, she said next year 3 to 5% for general operations, and so that sits outside of this, Amy? Okay, just want to be clear. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McGarry?
Okay. If you look at option 3B, which was originally 18.5 million, now it's scaled down to 17 million, okay? With a smaller police station, 10 to 15% less program area size, a renovated library at Mill Road with parking, a drop-off with the parking and a drop-off, a smaller commissioner meeting facility, because you can see how many people are here tonight, and an administration building renovation next door. The existing Cotrani is 1,000 square feet, so any new meeting room only needs to be by 2 by 5 as large, and only $100,000 cost, not 5,000 square foot at $200,000. Can we move the recreation department up to the renovated township building, which is the Cotrani building, right here? Can we use the quadrangle property for district court, saving us $50,000 a year? Can we maintain the recycling centers both at the police site and Glendale property? Then the timeless designs for construction, occupation are separate from each component, so they each can move quicker and not wait 4 years to occupy them all together. The traffic around the site will be virtually unchanged, with only option 3B, the police building only. And we can be updated for better design and flow, leaving space for more ball field use and parking, and improving by Manoa, the Manoa Road access point. Wooden land acquisition such as the Wawa, which I know is hard to get, make the large 4-story triple building programs with parking garage option 2 and 6 more feasible. How much extra cost would that be? Now, the other things I want to say is about the,
I'm sorry, Jim.
what?
You're asking a lot of questions here that
Okay.
If you want the answers to the questions, we can answer those questions, but they should have been
All
submitted
right,
prior
I'll
to.
go one by one, okay? Okay, option 3B, which was 18.5 million, and it's revised down to 17 million for the smaller police station, a renovated library at Mill Road, a smaller commissioner meeting room, and an administration building renovation. That's question one.
Chris, can you answer that? I mean, I don't know, option 3B, what is option 3B?
Okay, well, everybody was given a sheet, so option 3B is basically, it was 18.5 million, now it's scaled down to 17 million. It is for a new meeting room, and basically just the police station down at the police field there.
Okay,
And it basically to renovate the library at Darby and Mill Road.
okay, so, okay, you're saying 3B. Is there,
Who did option 3B? I mean,
okay, go ahead, Lauren.
I don't know that there was a 3B.
There was option 3, now it's 3B.
I think there was a 3B submitted by Mr. Bogosian to Mr. McGarity.
Okay.
As an alternate, but that was done after the presentation was done. We didn't revise the presentation, we
Okay.
didn't start anew. And we tried to pull from the submissions what questions we could and put them in this Q&A for the board.
Okay, okay, right.
Now,
I'm with you.
another question, okay, let me go into a question before I get into any more of these. Why don't we, at next week's commissioners' meeting, let any architect ask these gentlemen or ladies questions that they may have, because they're more familiar than any one of us 9 commissioners? Is there a problem with that?
Having residents come, anybody can come and speak at a
Can
commission
they ask
meeting or
these gentlemen the questions that they have?
We have, I mean, the whole reason.
I understand we have, I'm saying.
No, the public.
you could have
has had
submitted the
opportunity
questions
to
from the
submit-
Yeah,
architects.
but the public is limited in their time. Can they have more time to ask questions?
Okay.
If they'd submitted the questions to be
They can
answered.
ask questions, Jim, at the next commissioners' meeting. We've had previous commissioners' meetings where people have submitted questions. We've had them send them in by email. I mean, Chris, you don't have any problem coming to the next commissioners' meeting, do you?
I won't be in town next week, but
Oh,
I
you
can
won't
come
be
some
in
other time.
Okay.
But it's always helpful to get these questions ahead of time so I can do
Scheduling.
some research or find out.
Talk about scheduling. Have we set a schedule for this? No, we haven't. I
We
still don't
have
know
set-
whether I'm going to be here or not.
Okay. We talked about, I'm sorry, Chris. We talked about doing it in the August meeting. Jeff was going to check to see if he could be here. He's not sure if he can or not. If Jeff cannot be here, I would say we could do it in the September meeting.
Regular meeting.
The August regular meeting. If it cannot be done in that meeting because one of us cannot be here, because I think it's important that all the commissioners be here, we can do it at the September meeting.
But in all honesty, I think it's important the public's here too. Look at this. This is because this is the week of July 4th and it's a work session.
It's a work session where the public can't
But they
speak.
knew that it was going to be about the library and nobody's here. And
Well-
that's because they're not in town.
Measuring participation in this room is not the way to measure.
I
the
think it
public's
should be
interest
in
this.
the
People
fall
watch it
when
on TV.
everybody's
No, I
home,
don't
you know.
disagree with you on that. It's the second time that the sparse audience tonight has come up. First of all, thank you all for coming.
Right.
And
Thank you for coming.
And second of
No
all,
problem
I'm
with that.
curious where all of you parked. Since once we all get here and all our invited guests get here, none of you are allowed to park in this township parking lot anyway because it's not big enough for any of you. So most of them are parked on, they're either parked on Eagle or they're parked illegally somewhere over here. So my point is, there's plenty of public participation because people watch this work session. They'll watch it this week. We all certainly get lots of emails about this stuff. So, I think there'll be more public participation, personal public participation, when we're in a more modern setting and we can park more people and it's more comfortable. I mean, this is, I'm only here 9 years. Jimmy, you're here 170. And I mean, this is we're
Amy-
comfortable. We're in these chairs. I mean, these folks are
Okay.
sitting out
I-
here.
I'd like to ask Amy, though, under these different proposals here, for these different ones, like, option 1 was 23 million, 2 was 29 million, this one, 3 was 17 million. 6 was 30 million, and 7 was 15 million. Now, Amy, could you, in real figures, give what the tax increase would be for these different items that we're
I believe
talking
it's
about?
part of the presentation.
No, she gave a percentage. I mean, actual tax dollars, like, for instance, here on option 6.
Amy's here. Amy, can you come up
Okay.
over here so we can pick you up on the camera? Yeah. I know. Just part of the
The only
presentation.
thing, in all honesty, I have is what was reiterated at the first meeting, which was under the 7 schemes that were presented. Scheme 1, which was total project cost of about 23 million, 5.1% tax increase, $64, that meant to the average assessed property versus 54 to a median. Some people like to look at average property, some people like to look at median. And again, the average assessed parcel we were using was 171,000, median was 143. Scheme 2, which was 29.3 million, was a 6.6% increase, $83 impact to the average home, 69 to the median.
What is that, Amy?
83 to the average home and 69 to the median home.
Okay.
Scheme 3, which was 18.3 million in total project costs, was 3.8% impact, $48 to the average property and $40 to the median property. Scheme 4, which was 22.9 or almost 23 million, was a 5% increase, which equated to $63 to the average property and $53 to the median assessed property. Scheme 5 was total project cost of approximately 25 million, was a 5.6% increase, an impact of $70 to the average assessed property and $58 to the median assessed property. Scheme 6 was $30 million in total project cost, 30.3, excuse me. 6.9% impact equated to an $86 on the average assessed, 72 on the median. My Scheme 7, I don't know if some of these have changed, but this was 9.8 originally in project cost on Scheme 7, which equated to a 1.7% impact, or $22 to the average property and 18 to the median.
And that is part of the original.
These were the same figures that I
Right,
discussed
exactly.
the last
And
time.
they're on the website if anybody'd like to review them.
And can I
Thank
ask
you,
a
Amy,
question?
and I did want to just
Yeah,
point
sure.
out that it's on the spreadsheet. That's the last slide in the presentation that was missing.
Which-
And it's indicated in the last column. That was based on the average, the tax implications on
Right.
average property.
And so that's on the borrowing, and you still have to, you have to incorporate what he needs to run the township.
Right, correct.
Which
And
is,
that
we're
is,
not, I think we need to say that because it gets missed. I'm not saying you're doing it on purpose.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
and it is borrowing conditions as of today. They could be very different, one way or the other, come the time that we go to
So-
theoretically borrow.
That doesn't count if Larry comes to the township or the board and says, I need a 4% tax increase on top of that, correct?
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So
Well, if we borrowed under option 6, the 30 million at $86 for the upscale, where would that put us in borrowing power after we borrowed the $30 million?
Be approaching the limit under the Debt Enabling Act. I mean, we would still have a little bit of wiggle room, but I just personally don't want to get too close. I mean, we would have a little bit, but as we've had to borrow, recently for just our regular capital improvements, we're going to continue to have that need. So you don't want to get too close to that borrowing limit.
Well,
Well, at the same time, that borrowing's not going to take place all at one time, and every single 6 months, we're reducing our overall debt with our principal payments.
True. We don't have a call feature, though, for a few years, so we can't,
We get prepaid.
Right.
But we do have a declining principal because we've got a duty to have level debt service over the years. So we do backload new debt, but the existing debt we have is going off on a steady, basis, and that's accumulating more borrowing capacity every year.
The one thing I think probably Commissioner McGarrity's bringing to, Moody's does like the fact that our debt level was low, and that's why we were rated pretty high. So that's It's a good thing to have low debt.
And I'd
Like
like
having
to,
a good credit rating till you borrow.
I'd like to bring up the fact also of the $15 million Bogosian option would also be able to take care of two major problems that we have in the township. Basically, one being a little mill road for the people of Woodmere Park, which is about $1.5 million with the water lines there. They're completely, Larry, you want to talk about that?
Okay, let's,
Well, okay. And then also, Mr. Connell, okay, I'm just telling you money-wise now, Mr. Connell has a problem down in the Glen, which would run 3.5, so we'll just say $5 million out of that 15 would be 20. You fix those two problems, and you still have $10 million in borrowing power left.
Last works.
okay.
Mario, another question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Where are we right now with borrowing? We still owe on the
I'd
bond?
want to say if I had to come up with a
Estimate?
number, I think maybe would be 30 outstanding, maybe
Like
27,
28
27
We
and
still have
change.
28 million?
27, 28
And then
outstanding right now.
with the possibility of borrowing, I'm not trying to cause trouble, but possibility of borrowing another 30 million on top of the 20 million.
Add that to it.
Correct.
Subtract any repayments.
You're
As
not
of our
trying to
last
cause
debt
trouble?
statement, do you have our last debt
You're not trying to
statement
cause
with you?
trouble?
Not with
No,
me,
I'm not, I'm just
Our
trying
last
to,
debt statement establishes
Don't
our
listen to
borrowing
Jeff.
base, right? Isn't it about 77 million?
I was going to say 74 if I was asked
Yeah,
around
I think
there.
it's 77.
It could be. And that changes because, as you know, it's a
Our
roll,
borrowing
it's an
base
average.
right now.
That's the
Yeah.
total amount that we're allowed to borrow under the
allowed
law.
to borrow
would
up
be
to 77 million.
And we're at
Right,
20.
understand, we're always,
7.
yeah.
27.
We can borrow, that's the total amount of non-electoral debt you
Well,
can do.
even if
Township
we
can
borrow 30,
more.
then we still could borrow 20 more million then.
That's, we're getting.
We have a lot,
close.
yeah, we have a lot of capacity. It is part of what makes, what has made Moody's look at us better in the last years. It is also because we have shaved a lot of hair off the story that this township told for a number of years. I mean, everything has improved dramatically in the 9 years that we have, that we've fixed our finances, that we straightened out, whatever issues were out there. We've borrowed without insurance. We have an extraordinary, repayment record, and
Doing
that's going to
audits.
matter.
We're doing regular
we're-
audits,
we're,
things like that.
We're in such a different place than we were just a decade ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And the borrowing capacity does inch up a little bit each year because it's a 250% of the
Right,
average for
so
the last 3
that's
years.
of our average revenues. Yeah.
Commissioner Siegel.
Yeah, just two things. I mean, part of the problem that we have, whether it's the municipal buildings, the infrastructure that was just discussed, et cetera, is that we have to, at some point, recognize that we've done a lot of good for this township with all the projects, but that our infrastructure, whether it's township buildings, whether it's sewers, whether it's flooding, whether it's issues in the park, that we have parks, we have issues all over. This board has to make priorities and start to fix them, because it's like if you don't patch the leak in your roof, eventually the roof collapses, and so does your building. And we are close to that with a bunch of our buildings.
Well,
The
we're close to that
other,
with sewers and buildings. I mean, and
They're
your
different.
flooding.
Well, people losing their homes should be a priority over a new library. We can fix the old library. I mean, that's how I feel.
Kim,
I was
please.
just gonna- I was
You
just
had
gonna
your
say
opportunity
that.
to speak.
I'm
Please
just
allow.
responding.
excuse me, Commissioner McGarity, I haven't said a word tonight.
I wasn't
I've
talking to you,
allowed
Mr. Siegel, okay?
I was trying to finish, and whether you want to allow me or not, that's your
Mr. Siegel,
prerogative.
you
No,
weren't talking
I-
at the time Mr. D'Amelio was, and I was talking to him, okay?
No.
Go ahead, finish.
The other factor that's been discussed tonight is whether we gauge when we vote based on attendance at these meetings. And I don't think that is the relevant consideration for this board. We have held multiple meetings over these facilities. We've heard from people. We've heard from people on a lot of issues. One of the issues that's a hot button issue right now in this township is the issue with the zoning board and Walgreens. No one's here about that issue. That doesn't mean they don't care. I've received more comments on that in a month than I have received in 6 years as a commissioner on billboards. So gauging community interest based on attendance at these meetings, I think, is not the way to go. I can tell from looking at my newsletters that 54% of the people who opened the newsletter looked at the municipal service building presentation. They're reading about what we've done here. The fact that they don't attend does not mean that they don't care or that they're not contacting us in other ways. Our responsibility is to move forward, whether it's to vote for or against something, but it is to move forward and not to wait for this room to be filled or not, because that's not a gauge of public interest, in my view.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let's talk about the schedule.
Yes, thank you.
So, we are going to, we're going to take questions in July. Am I correct? We're
When?
taking questions in July at the regular commissioners meeting.
You'll take comments.
Week.
the
We'll
3
take
minutes
comments,
Comments.
3-minute comments. We will be, because it's going to be on the agenda discussion. August, we will also be taking questions. And if you won't be here, then the meeting will be in September. Am I correct?
Lauren?
Okay.
Is there a work session in August that could be devoted to?
I'll be out of town for that.
Cool.
I'll be in Michigan.
It has to be a voting meeting. So it would have to be,
But not for discussion.
Not for
oh no, we can
discussion.
discuss it at the next work session.
So if people want to come and speak, the work
Right.
session is probably the best time to do it, but.
Right.
You can't have.
Yeah, well, we could
we can make one-
dedicate 30 minutes or 45 minutes of the work session to
public
public comment on
comment.
the issue.
Right.
And no problem with
Right.
that.
That we can do. We can always allow public.
No,